So this is the official meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals on July 20th. Today we have Elliot Hammond, John Martin, Aaron Wolf. I am the chair, Greg Gunder. First thing on the agenda is a continuance of a public hearing for Jennifer and Chris Daly of 19 Market Street from July 6th. So,
Correction, it's Garden Street, not Market Street.
you're right.
7 Market Street was the last one.
Yeah. 19 Garden Street, right? Yeah, I'm going off. That cut and paste always gets me in trouble. So let's make this.
Don't admit anything.
So make it official. This is 19 Garden Street for Jennifer and Chris Daly.
Yeah, thank you.
So that's on the record. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Anyway, so moving forward, there is one piece of that has come in since last week. John, did you read into the record these other two letters, or were they?
They were virtually read by the draftee of the letter verbatim.
All right.
Were there 2 versions of it, or there was, cause she read one letter, right?
It was the exact same thing as what we had.
Okay. So I won't
Thoroughly,
repeat
she went
that.
through it.
Yeah.
We that's why the meeting went so late.
Yeah. So I won't repeat that. So this is new. This is an email from Seth Gallagher, and I'll just read this in for the record. Dear members of the Zoning Board of Appeals, I am a neighbor of Christopher and Jennifer Daly living at 10 Garden Street, and I am writing to express my support for the zoning variance application submitted by them for the proposed addition to their home at 19 Garden Street. I have reviewed their building plans and find the addition they propose to be respectful of the unique design of their house and in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. I realize that the owners of 16 Garden Street object to losing their view of Storm King, but I don't find this to be a legitimate reason to deny the Dalys variance. In a small village with very small lots, it's unavoidable with new construction will come with changes in views, shadow casts, and other alterations. Yet property owners have the right to build new homes on undeveloped residential lots. Homeowners have rights to improve their homes. When views are not protected by deed restrictions, neighbors must accept that certain changes are possible and may eventually happen. Thank you, sincerely, Seth Gallagher, 10 Garden Street. So that's in the record.
Well, you can identify the other letter as from Hope. Just identify it.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I did reference to it, but just so since we're coming back.
Yeah. The other letter we were referencing earlier was from Alan and Hope Hemberger at 16 Garden Street, and this was in
the date of that letter.
The date of that
July
letter
6th.
is July 6th.
2007.
Yeah. The date on Seth's is today, July 20th. So those are in the record per se. I did listen to some of the discussions. I understand the concerns about new and old construction and the clarity of it. And thank you for doing this.
Great. No
I think this will help a lot in moving this discussion along. Because I know even when we had the 3Ds,
Yeah.
they were doing the variations, and
Sure.
But this is the same design that they submitted for a final.
Yes.
Because we pulled the records from the May 16th, May 9th, 2016.
The original was March 2015.
2015. It just seemed like yesterday.
I know.
So,
I feel you.
so that's where we are. Do you want to add anything to, since we made you
Yeah, sure.
color code this edition?
Yeah, no, there's no problem. This is fundamentally the same document that we looked at earlier. I've added some color layering to it just to be able to brighten up both the existing spot, the addition spot, as well as sort of marking where the current where the actual variance lines are. Interestingly, when the original set that you guys had, I had Xerox copied my set, and my set had a graying on it, so you could actually visually see it. That did not come out in the Xerox, or it came out in the Xerox ineffectively. So I'm glad this is a more effective way to visually communicate the situation. And then to your point about the previous variance, I would like to point out, this had come up, I think, in the last time, about whether or not that this should be considered a new application or not. It obviously is a new application, but given the fact that it's identical to an application that was approved on a 4-0 basis, there is a degree of incumbence on this board to demonstrate, in the event of a denial, what the characteristical differences are between this application and the previous application. And I would humbly submit, given it's the same property owner, the zoning code hasn't changed, the neighborhood hasn't changed, the zoning area of the street hasn't changed, that there are no characteristic differences between the two applications. And in that light, I strongly urge a variance request acceptance. Thank you.
Board, additional comments, questions, concerns?
Now, did you get a chance to look over any of the video of the
Yeah,
past?
I looked at it.
So you're fully versed on it?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I did my own site visit.
Okay.
You probably saw me crawling around.
I'm just making of the record that he's up to date
Great.
with everything that went on before.
Appreciate
But,
it.
I mean, if you feel as if he didn't hear all the evidence, obviously he said he saw it, looked at it. on
No,
his
I
own.
mean, the evidence is, the bulk of my evidence is what was presented, and I think, this is your second time run through this particular material. I mean, what really was presented at the previous meeting related to the question of the view and the question about whether or not view sheds are a particular aspect of character. And, that can become a debatable point. We can get into the finer components of that, but, I think the record is relatively sound in the sense that the zoning code doesn't include view sheds as part of the sort of the acceptable limits of what, it's not part of the decision-making process of zoning, and I think the assess letter sort of sums it up as well.
I mean, even, I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Sure.
Just for discussion's sake, and if I'm out of line, somebody yell at me. I mean, let's say you said, okay, I don't want to go in front of ZBA, and I'm just going to build up to that small lot line. They'd still lose that sight line.
Even if we were to build to where we would be allowed to, which
In other words, you wouldn't have to request the variance.
right.
There would be the difference in what they're requesting.
As far as the bulk, looking where it's going to go.
I mean, yes, it would be smaller, but I'm guessing they still would lose, some of that sight line as well.
So-
That's my take on it for 2 cents worth.
And for the record, we're looking at a side yard variance issue.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So narrow lot.
Narrow lot. And Marie did the calculations, thank God. And you guys can look at this. I'll basically read it for the record. The lot width is 48.10 feet, and you multiply that times 4 inches, that's 192.40 inches. That calculates to 16.03 feet. The north side is 1.7 feet. Therefore, the remaining difference is 14.33 feet. The proposed distance is 7.5, in other words, off the lot line.
Off the
and
southerly lot.
on the southerly lot side, and so the variance he needs to go to 7.5 feet is 6.83 feet. So that's the small lot calculation. So he is asking, and are you in agreement with that, Chris? That
Yeah,
you're asking for a
from-
6.83 foot variance?
Yeah, side yard variance request was 6.83 feet, yes.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure, I mean, I was hoping you agreed. But I went through the calculations,
Yes.
and so basically he's asking for 6.83 feet on the south side. And that's the only variance that's in front of us.
Okay, and the public knew about today, right? As a
It's.
You stated it when we left the other day.
We said it with the other.
That would be a
I-
continuation.
No, I
And
know.
And I published an agenda on Tuesday, is when I sent out that email.
Anecdotally, I know Hope had reached out to some other neighbors as well, so I know she was.
Yeah.
She's aware of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he has no, I mean, he's done his due diligence in terms of noticing.
And they made a good record, public made a good record the last time.
Right.
Just the prior year.
Right.
And nobody's here today.
I was, as strongly as some people spoke.
Yeah, I thought
Nothing-
that, I was expecting that.
Nothing personal, but as strongly as they spoke, I thought they would want to come back and
But the
say
ZBA has
more.
returned to its calm
Yeah,
demeanor.
and so.
Greg
good
came
for
back,
everybody.
so it makes us a little nervous.
Yeah.
It just doesn't show up.
Oh, yeah, like I'm Mr. Meanie. So.
They knew Dennis was coming.
Yeah, well, Dennis, do you have anything to say to Dennis? No. Comments? Comments?
Do you have any questions?
Comments?
No.
All right, so at this point, it sounds like, I mean, you guys are happy with this site plan, it
Yeah.
gives you the info that you need, okay? So at this point, we can close the public hearing. If we close the public hearing, it's your call. If we close the public hearing, no new additional information can be, entered into the record. Hopefully, we've asked all our questions that we need to ask. And then the next things we go into is we walk through the decisions where we go through the 5 criteria based on the information that we have obtained over these last 2 meetings.
All right, just to.
That's all right.
Just
This is
to be
your last chance.
Yeah, we haven't closed the meeting.
We haven't
yet,
closed
so-
the meeting yet. I'm
Just-
just.
Did you want to go through those points yourself?
I'm going to go through those points from my case law. So I have some copies of this that I can share with you. I'll read it in the record and then share it with you. This is not a case law in and of itself. It was a statement of fact, a memorandum of law written by a zoning board and a real estate specialist attorney in Carmel, pursuant to ZBA Article 78 or Section 78 hearing that occurred.
I don't understand why we have to go through that.
Because it deals with sort of precedent regarding the definition of some of the terms in the
We
criteria.
haven't given any kind of decision, so why are we listening to something that might?
Well, I
be
think what
irrelevant right now?
he's making an argument based on those 5 points, I imagine. Just prior to closing the hearing, it's
Right.
sort of like an oral argument as opposed to evidence.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, this is not intended to be adversarial to a decision. It's rather just a backup. It's part of the discussion we had last week or 2 weeks ago was around the terms of art inherent within the 5 criteria, and obviously those area balances involve a balancing test weighing the benefit of the applicant against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood and the community. And those 3 specific terms were called out in a decision in the New York 2nd District Court in 1995 in a case called Sasso and Osgood. So specifically, as those 5 criteria relate to the ideas of character, they really specifically boil down to terms of health, safety, and welfare. Secondary, a couple of other cases real quick here, where the requested variance is consistent with prevailing patterns, meaning prevailing patterns of a residential street. I think it's been indicated through HDRB sessions and through other pieces that the overall design is consistent, not just with our house, but with the street. A variance.
How is it consistent?
Consistent in the sense that from the side variance that we're asking for is not inconsistent with the general pattern, not just on Garden Street, but within the lower village in terms of spacing between houses, and that the overall design and layout of the house is in fact been deemed consistent by the HDRB within the context of the 3-house container that we live in. So I'm going to lean on that to a certain extent. So where the requested area variance is consistent with prevailing patterns, a variance should be granted. This is a quote from Rubble versus Zoning Board of Appeals in the Incorporated Village of Brookville from 1995. It's also well founded that the contended impacts to deny must be material and not just generalized and unsubstantiated concerns of neighbors. See Gonzalez versus Zoning Board of Appeals of Town of Putnam Valley, circa 1997.
Yeah, John, I'm gonna turn to him.
Sure.
Go ahead.
He threw out the word material.
Right.
Give me bring a non-legalese up to, what does that mean? You know?
Well, you know, in essence, what he just read out there is sort of a generalist statement. We're going to just focus really on these. He's making a certain argument, and material is simply something that's critical, and you know, it would be fact-driven on a specific issue. That would be
Okay.
material
Okay.
on a specific issue.
Okay.
So, what you can get 20 million cases, and they can say little different things. So, I mean, a proponent will always get the ones that sound best for his side. And in this case, it's basically oral argument, but we stick with these 5 criteria.
Right.
And we already know the evidence, right? We all got the evidence, and so.
I would argue in that point that the comment that we've heard in the negative for the variance from the public has not resulted in a material deficiency of health, welfare, or safety on the street. Is really the point of that.
So you.
And I'm done.
You're good, you're good.
Thank you.
Can we have a copy of that just for?
Yeah, sure.
You know, just.
Sure, we'll just put it
I
around.
mean, we'll just.
It was read on the record.
Right on the record, have
Yeah, it's-
I got copies for everybody. I've highlighted the portions of it.
Yeah, yeah, we just need one.
No problem.
Because otherwise I have to throw
Thank you.
them away.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, do we
So-
move to close the public
Chris,
hearing?
you comfortable with
Yeah.
closing the
Great.
public hearing? Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll move to close it.
John moves to close. Do I have Elliot seconds? All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing
Hearing's
is
green.
closed. All right. So, basically, I've roughed through basically a decision that it has will not, does not, you know, so it's not, you know.
Yeah, no, I think I heard you roll through at the last couple of hearings as well.
Yeah, so basically, the front end is, whereas Jennifer Castaley is the owner of the real property of 19 Garden Street, Cold Spring, R1 zoning district, and is identified as tax map parcel 48.8-2-23, and referral from the code enforcement of 2017-06-04 by Cold Spring Code Enforcement, and whereas Jennifer Castaley has made application to Cold Spring Zoning Board of Appeals for a side yard variance pursuant to section 13417E of the Cold Spring Village Code, which is the small lot that's in parens, in order to construction, in addition to the south side of the existing residence. Whereas Jennifer Castaley has made application to Cold Spring Board of Application for an area variance pursuant to section 134-17E in order to construct the addition on the existing residence, requires a 14.33 foot side yard setback on the southerly portion of the premises, and the applicant has 7.5 feet, so the variance requested is 6.83. Whereas the proposed actions constitute a type 2 in seeker, basically a non-impact. And whereas public hearings were held on the application at the office of Cold Spring, New York, on July 6th and July 20th. Whereas the Cold Spring Zoning Board of Appeals has given careful consideration to the facts presented in the application at the public hearing and finds that, and now we'll start that, the benefits sought by the applicant can or cannot be achieved by any other feasible means.
Well, they went before the HDRB and they had several proposals for construction, and the HDRB picked one. But, you know, when you get right down to it, they could choose to do things by other means, buy a new house.
I don't think that's exactly what the question is, though, is it?
But go ahead, you go ahead.
I mean, I think that if you want to build an addition on your house, and this is really the only means that they've got available because of what the historic board said, so you can't, you know, they can't build it higher, they can't build it within the small yard setback because it would be denied by the historic review board, so it seems like this is their only option if they want to expand their house. So.
That's why I said that first, and then
Oh,
I gave a flip side. I gave two different sides.
I'm sorry.
So,
I thought you were suggesting that they.
Yeah, go buy a new house. Sorry.
John,
So,
Ryan.
just by it. So we're saying the benefits cannot be,
Yeah, predominantly because of the HDRB,
HDRB has approved.
the specific plan that's been presented to us.
Right.
There were several other versions that weren't accepted by the HDRB. Elliot, anything?
No, I was just, it's one of the, their decision, control our decision. If that's the only way they're gonna let them build, how can that affect our decision?
Well, it doesn't necessarily affect it altogether. I mean, it's a big point. I mean,
I've always been one for the zoning board should be first, they should be second, because if they go through all of this and they approve it and we don't approve it, then where does that leave the applicant? I've never been one for historic review board say yay or nay to a project when they need variances. It's almost like they approve the project because they approve the project, we have to give them the variance to do this thing.
Yeah, it's not
And it's
necessarily,
holding you to the
it
gun.
wouldn't necessarily really happen that way, I don't think. But, I mean, there's a sense of the influence a little bit, but,
Yeah,
I mean, we could think freely, and so, that's a good point, though.
Apologies, I understand it's not time to add additional evidence. There is evidence already in the record that I'd like to point out. Everybody's going to be allowed to do that.
Well, I think we saw the evidence, so
Understood.
you
Well,
can't
it's
keep
germane at this
making,
point.
it's like making another argument, oral argument or present.
I just wanted to point out something that's already in the record.
We usually don't accept that, I mean.
Yeah.
all the statements have been in and done.
Well, Elliot, we already have been, like it or not, we've been dirtied with the knowledge that the HDRB.
Oh, yeah,
only
no, I
approved the one
understand.
plan.
I understand. But that's just, like I said, it's my opinion. That's the way I feel about it. And it's just like, whatever it is.
No,
it
that's
is.
important. That's why we have to have a board of 5 members with, different views. That's important. But anything else you wanted to put on that?
No.
Okay.
The proposed application will or will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood.
Well, that's a point that's been debated. I mean, in the sense that,
Heavily.
yeah, some of the neighbors who have view sheds that might be obstructed feel that it'll change the character of the neighborhood as they see it. Whereas the house structure itself, were it not supposedly blocking a view that's currently there, there's nothing bad about the house itself and the plan. It's just about what it's going to block for other people.
See, I don't even look at that part.
So,
I don't
what's your
consider that.
opinion? What's your
Well,
opinion?
the thing is, when you're adding onto a house, I mean, the village is an old village. All the houses are alike. So my feeling is, why do we allow people to build bigger houses on lots when just because the rest of the village is like that, doesn't mean you have to have everything like it. So if 10 people come up to us with a similar situation, and they present the whole village's houses this close, all that stuff was pre-existing. That's the way the village was built 50 years ago. Part of zoning boards is to keep the village the way it was, not to allow people to continually build on their property, making their houses bigger. That's my bone of contention.
Because, in particular,
Because you're
why-
adding
why-
on-
Why is it a problem on this specific case?
Well,
Just out of-
not only this
in the way you're
specific case,
seeing
it's anybody that comes up to us who has a lot and a half, a lot and 3/4, wants to add onto their house. The village is built that way 50, 100, 200 years ago. So you're trying to avoid that. You're trying to avoid the New York City concept. That's what I'm trying to avoid, the New York City or Brooklyn concept, whatever concept you want to call it. So now you're allowing people to add on, so now you go from this to this, and you're gonna have maybe 1 house, 2 houses, 3 houses. That's the way I look at it. I'm to preserve the village. I don't wanna see,
Well, I-
1,500 square foot houses on 500 square
Right.
foot lots.
But this addition doesn't require an area variance, a lot coverage variance, so he's under that.
Right.
He's, he still has 7.5 feet to his lot line. He's not building two, he's not building two.
No, you're right, but there are also houses in the village that are 10, 12 feet away from their neighbors.
And on the north side, it's 1.7 feet.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just, you're enclosing in the neighborhood. Again, this is the feeling that I have, this is,
Yeah.
this is my thought of preserving the village and, whatever it is.
So whether or not it would make an undesirable change, the benefit, an undesirable change in the neighborhood would result in the character or become a detriment to nearby properties. What's your statement on that?
That's my statement.
That-
I'm not worried
is it-
about the person who lives across, you can't see the mountain. That's not my concern.
Okay, so do you think it makes a detriment or not? Yes, because it's overbuilding, is what you're saying.
That's what I feel, it's overbuilding.
Okay.
That's what my concern is, that it's overbuilding.
And what's your take?
Well, I recognize the loss of the view as, and the view has value to the neighbors. I don't think that that's enough of a loss to call it a detriment or damage to the character. I mean, it's, when you buy a house across from an empty lot, you have to expect that somebody's going to want to do something with it. Likewise, if you buy an empty lot, you have to expect that people aren't going to want you to build on it. But in this case, the small variance and the difference, of what might be allowed by some future historic board is not really that much of a difference in how the view is going to change. So it's been a good view for a long time, but that's a view through somebody else's property. So I should kind of share the regret of losing a view. It's nice to have a good view, but I don't think that's enough to.
So will it
to
cause
call-
a change, will, in your mind, a change in the neighborhood character or a detriment to nearby properties?
Well, we have the opinion from at least one neighbor that it's a detriment to her property, so I can't argue with that. That's kind of a subjective opinion by the property owner. I would not say that it's that it's specifically an undesirable change to the neighborhood. In fact, you could say, if that lot was always intended to have a house on it, that it's more like what was planned for the street than it had been, once we get to the point where it's built.
Yeah, I mean, it is, and this probably will get covered in additional sections. And I know that we know that they looked at various, plans on this, and it seems like a fairly conservative, to me, it seems like a fairly conservative expansion. It's not like they've taken the whole house and literally doubled the size of it. I mean, they have taken a third of the house and expanded on it. That's from my perspective.
Well, I would think, I would think that it would cause a slight detriment to the properties because of a view that was there, but at the same point in time, the property owner is within their rights to build with the approval, as long as the zoning board would agree through all these changes and everything. They are under a height restriction, which is one of the things that's allegedly blocking the view. Although they are seeking a variance to move the structure across the property, north to south. So, I mean, it's the whole issue is, I think there is some form of a detriment to the neighborhood, but I just think in the end it's balanced out by the fact that the property owner should not be absolutely restricting what they can do with their property as long as they're meeting other criteria within the codes. And of course, This is just one question here.
Yeah. No,
And
I know.
just to be clear on what I was saying about detriment, it's only a detriment to the view. It's not a detriment to any other use of the neighboring properties or any other.
That's
environment.
correct.
Right.
That's another way to say it.
Right,
Yeah. It's just a detriment, it's a small detriment to the view, but not necessarily, you know, to the character of the neighborhood, the structure, although Elliot would feel that it's over bulking the neighborhood. So there's a difference of opinion on a board on this issue, on this one question.
So basically, here's a summary, and if
Go
it's
ahead.
not right,
Yep,
please,
listen.
you know. The neighbors have stated that it will change the character of the neighborhood due to the loss of the view.
That's important that you put it that way, that the neighbors do.
To the neighbors. Yet, it is not enough to deny approval for the project. The property owner is within their rights to make this expansion. Character of the neighborhood is not being radically changed with this addition.
That's character, yeah, agree.
Again, if
We did have one neighbor who, I forget what Seth said, what he mentioned about the view. Did he mention the view?
yes, he did. In his, and I think it's okay to reread it because we've,
Sure.
for reminder in our, this is a reminder, not new information. It's unavoidable that any new construction will come with changes in views, shadow casts, and alterations. So, you know, so it's kind of inherent anytime you do any
So
kind
he's,
That's another opinion, but that, he's not
Yes.
necessarily directly across from Christina.
of, yeah.
he's a neighbor who's not,
Affected by the view.
who's not saying that the view is anything, that the change in the view is any detriment.
Right. Right.
So not all of the neighbors
Right.
are in agreement there.
Right.
I mean, the majority of them are.
Yeah.
You know, and of course, you know, with some of the things we mentioned on this point, Elliot has a difference of opinion, which, you know, can influence his overall consideration of the whole matter, because you're gonna be balancing and weighing things too. So.
Right. So I'm going to basically put this as the proposed application will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood and a detriment to the nearby properties. And then what I just read is expanding on that it's will not, but it's will nots with some caveats.
Sure.
So,
Good right now.
going on, whether the request, the side yard setback of 6.83 variance requested is or is not substantial.
It is, in my opinion. But especially since they need, what is, 14.9 is what the minimum would be? If
They
you-
would, use cheat sheet here. So the
They needed 14.9.
14.33.
33. That's the lot width times 4 inches.
Well, it's 48 times 4, and so the minimum was 16 feet for both sides, 16.03 feet. He has 1.7 on
So when
the
you
north.
take 6.83 and you compare it to 16, to me, in my opinion, it's substantial. When you require,
Yeah.
when you're supposed to have a minimum of 16. I don't know, what is the rest of the board think?
Well, this is
Well, he's supposed to have a minimum of 16. He's requesting
6.83.
out of that.
So he's looking for Yeah. 35%.
Yes.
What's your thought?
It is a substantial percent.
Total requirement, yeah, I'm gonna do total requirement of 16 feet, you know. I'll somehow work that calculation into the job. So the total requirement of 16.03 feet, the 6.83 feet is a substantial
Requested variance.
required.
No, requested.
I know, many times requested variance of, and for now, I'm just gonna do 35%.
Yeah,
I'll
okay.
go, I'll do
Yep.
the math before I
Okay.
publish. Maybe, hopefully.
So that answers that as a short question, right?
Yeah. The proposed variance will or will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or the district. Now, is a view, and this is as much a question on my part, is a view considered environmental? I guess not. I don't know. I'm
Airflow?
You're not changing the direction.
No.
airflow.
I'm just trying to think out loud.
Yeah, okay,
Compare it
yeah,
to-
just,
So, what's your thought, Aaron?
My thought is that it's, neither of those is the case. It's
you
not-
feel it would not have environmental and physical impact?
No.
Okay.
I don't see any environmental problems.
Okay.
I don't see any environmental problems. It's the physical, hold on. I don't think it'll have any physical impact, the structure, on the surrounding properties. I just don't see.
Yeah,
So no physical or environmental effects. Envisioned, or demonstrated by the evidence.
what is,
Because I think you're looking at the addition of the house itself and whether that has a physical effect, impact on the neighborhood. I mean, we talked about the view shed, so I think this is a slightly different question. So,
yeah,
oh yeah, and it's
It's-
within the 30%. It's
Yeah,
26%.
yeah.
Right.
yeah.
It's under
A
the
lot of coverage, that's why I was just
Yeah.
kind of checking what it was. I know it wasn't an issue, but it's,
the proposed addition with existing improvements will total only 26%, well, 30%.
yeah.
Suburban.
Thank you, Marie, for all this math. All right. And the last one, so basically the proposal will not have an adverse effect on or impact on physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood of the district. The alleged difficulty necessitating the variance was or was not self-created is or is not sufficient as to cause a denial of the requested variance. My assumption, from my perspective, it was self-created.
That's my feeling. What's your feeling?
My feeling is generally, unless your house is burned down, if you're
It's-
rebuilding it bigger, then
Yeah, so
self-created.
it's, that's true. We only had like 2 decisions where it was not, but is or is not sufficient so as to cause a denial on the requested variances.
Not sufficient, right?
No, I don't think that's sufficient, and it's also mitigated by the, the knowledge we have from the historic review board that the only plan they approved requires the variance.
It requires the building to be built that way, the way the HDRB approved, so that the variance becomes necessary under the circumstances. But Elliot, what's your thought?
Well, again, it's self-created, because you bought a house that's small and now you want in charge, so what are you gonna do? You can't dictate people what they're gonna buy and what they wanna build on later on. Hindsight's 20/20 vision. So,
Any other thoughts?
I guess the only other thing is again, I'm gonna go back to, this is, I think, a conservative expansion of the building. I have visions of somebody who would have just done the whole building straight back, or, some version of that.
And he's only looking for a single variance,
Yeah.
not multiples, not like
No.
in height, not in.
Not even
Well,
front yard setback. That's unusual. Not even a
But
front.
you see, they're looking at it that way?
Yeah,
A little bit.
I mean, and the expansion is, because it's set back.
Mhm.
It's not towards the front of the lot. I think the impact, any additional bulk that comes, I mean, there's still a lot of open space there.
And your
I-
roof could be 35 feet in height, right? But you have
Yeah.
28.25, I think we should put that in
Yeah.
with regards to the issue of the view, somewhere in that, to point out that while 35 is permitted, that the structure is under that at 28.25 feet.
They still call that 2.5 stories, 35 feet, which is a big story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we
Yeah.
were reading all the right one. Okay.
I just want to capture, Elliot, you had concerns with,
Overgrowth in the village?
yeah. I want to capture
I don't capture it, I'll just give it to you straight out.
Many letter.
You wanted to highlight that. Okay.
It's like a Thomas Jefferson.
that. Don't go there.
Damn it.
Okay, so basically, the alleged difficulty necessitating the variance was self-created, but is not sufficient as to cause denial of the request. Basically, the HDR approval of this is the only plan that they approved. It's a conservative plan to expand the building, but there were concerns about overgrowth in the village in terms of
Bulk.
bulk and density.
Of home improvements, structures. Yeah, you can define the term you want to put there.
Bulk and density. Say that again, John.
Bulk and density of residential structures. In narrow, on narrow lots.
On narrow lots?
Yeah, a lot
Is
of
that
these
right?
are narrow lots.
Right, yeah.
Yes, on that street.
Yeah,
60 by, if you're lucky, 60 feet wide.
okay. Yeah, this is 48. And it's double.
Something smaller than that.
In balance, after a detailed review of the side yard setback variance of 6.83 requested, the board finds that it I need more of a balancing statement.
That the requested variance does not cause a detriment to the neighborhood, and is sought to be, is sought because the owner seeks to be in comportment with the HDRB proposed or accepted plans.
terms of balancing.
Balancing,
Balancing
your-
all
with your
all
general-
this stuff up.
Well, I think we've captured most of it. The only thing that, now I don't know if we need to write it down, but we might want to think about, if we were to deny this, then we would be setting some kind of hard to define precedent.
On view sheds, because
Yeah.
that was the, was that the main complaint with regards to this proposed building?
I think there was some talk of size, but mostly it was one, Hope's comment about her view. So I think if we were to deny it based on that, we'd have a hard time defining that in a way that didn't open that up to,
As-
everything.
And it would be a separate criteria, it would be like a new criteria that we'd have to keep following and checking into.
Right.
But we don't have any guidance on.
There's no,
review from.
there's no code statement.
No, other than,
regarding view sheds.
building height, building block.
That's
Well, I mean, we-
indirectly
we
what a
do-
view shed, yes.
Yeah, we do outlines,
Well, the code does take that into consideration.
We do outlines, that's, and if your outline is, he could, within the setbacks, he could go full tilt and do 35 feet, and go hog wild.
And also, one of the things, the comment apart from view shed is that, Aaron mentioned it, Elliot, is the density, and while, it is expanding this house on what is, characterized as a narrow lot in the code, it's also under the 30% coverage lot.
When Shea built his house,
Pardon me?
when Shea built his house, it's up there on D.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There was concern, again,
well, we got letters even before the house started to go out.
the same thing, there was the same concern.
Yeah.
View shed.
Yeah,
And that's only the second time that you've probably had that.
yeah, I mean, but.
But he never had it the previous 12, 13 years I was on the board.
Yeah.
But he
But things,
didn't.
He didn't even need a variance. so
He didn't
never
need a
came before.
variance, so there, we had no purview over it, therefore,
No.
it was, but we had letters on it from, even before the construction started.
But we did get the letters, like you said.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I can imagine you did.
Elliot, did you want to add something on this? You want to read out what you have for balancing, and we'll see what.
I'll try.
I know you're paraphrasing. We're gonna work on it.
In balance, after a detailed review of side yard setback requested, the board finds that it does not cause detriment to the neighborhood, and the applicant seeks to work within the HDVR guidelines for the accepted plans.
As well as, most of the zoning code, because they're only seeking one variance.
And, okay. Most of the zoning code. They are seeking a single variance for this project. Density is a concern in expanding a house on a narrow lot, but is not sufficient to deny the request.
And particularly because the bulk of the house remains under it's only covers 26.5% of the problem, of the property. Lot.
Is under lot coverage.
It fits in with the character.
That fits in with the character of the neighborhood. There was evidence that showed that that the house is, proposed house would be consistent with the neighboring houses. If you saw photographs of it down the street.
Neighborhood. Okay. All right, so I got it as last two. Is or is not granting the minimum variances. I think with the statement, I think we can safely say that is granting the minimum variances necessary to complete the project and balance the findings on each criteria.
Complete the project as accepted by the HDRB approvals, or as within the constraints of the HDRB approvals. That's the minimum variance, because it has to be within the constraints. HDRB.
Within, I like the constraint. Constraints.
The HDRB approved plans. Building plans.
So much easier when I could just cut and paste your decision last time. No, this is good work, Joe. I'm just busting your chops.
Approved building plans.
Approved gardening plans. In balance, the findings of each criteria support granting of resolution 4-17.
Should we first vote?
Yes, so I need a motion to well, actually, that's a balancing statement,
Yeah.
so I'll read the final statement being, now therefore it be resolved that the Cold Spring Zoning Board of Appeal hereby grants the application of Jennifer and Christine Lee for the area variance pursuant to section 134E of the Village of Cold Spring. A motion was made by? And seconded by?
I'll second the application.
Okay, we'll do a quick roll call vote. Aaron?
Yes.
John?
In favor? Variance.
Abstain.
Same, okay. And in favor? Per the vote, the variance is granted. So, never get who makes the motion.
Yeah. Aaron made the motion. I seconded.
Okay, so I will make a reasonable statement of this decision versus the gobbledygook, but basically capturing pretty much all those details that are discussed. That decision has to be submitted by Wednesday, so it will be in the office as a decision, and at that point, don't wait 2 years.
Yeah, no, actually, we gotta get our, well, when you guys, during the meeting, I got something interesting for you to look at. But,
So
yeah.
don't wait 2 years.
I won't.
That's my
We're gonna get a
suggestion.
building permit by August 19th.
So there, that's done.
Especially since there might be a view shed
Might
ordinance
be.
by that point.
Yeah, it might be in the zoning code by then.
Oh, with the well, they might. Who knows? When they rewrite the code, they
They
might.
haven't brought that up yet.
They haven't. No.
They probably not gonna do it.
Yeah.
There's a couple.
It's very
They passed
difficult.
over the fences.
Very, very difficult to.
They passed over the fences.
They just left it at 4 feet. Said, we're done.
Not, a very important issue. They let it go.
Well, they're keeping it at 4 feet.
But
What? Go ahead.
what are you gonna do?
That's another matter. I mean, because if you make it 6 feet, then everybody looks for 8 feet.
But the point was, if you do it in a certain way, like we suggested several years ago, only to the back of the house. In other words, if your house is, the back of your house is here, here's your front, this is from here back. Just the backyards, we tried to
And it's
explain that.
undulating.
Then you're not having a problem.
But at the same point in time, all those characteristics can be taken in, all those different things can be taken into consideration, so, yeah. You were gonna say?
Yeah, it's something interesting that came up, that obviously didn't need to come into the evidentiary portion of this, but something for you guys in the future, because I didn't know this either. The previous variance that was granted could have been given an extension, even though it expired. And the fact that the variance has expired does not mean it can't be extended. And in fact,
But you have to make the application.
I don't have to make a new, you wouldn't have to make a new application.
No, you just make an application to extend it.
It's the application to extend, right, and that the
But you have to do it before it expires.
you don't have to do it before it expires.
Well,
You have to do it-
I'm not sure, I'd double check. that.
Well, so this is the example that was in the Westlaw 2008 issue of New York zoning law and practices. So this is the example. Where, however, an applicant has made a timely application, and timely is a term of art there, of course, has an application for an extension of time, there must be afforded an opportunity to show that circumstances have not changed, and a denial of extension will only be substantiated if proof of such circumstances is lacking. The second part of it, where is it? Where's the thing? All right, the example they use is, for example, where a variance issued to a prior owner has lapsed by the passage of time, the new owner does not have a right to automatic renewal, but must demonstrate that they are entitled to the renewal by existing circumstances that meet the requirements necessary to grant the variance. So the way that's phrased, the fact that it's lapsed is immaterial. What's also immaterial is the fact that it's a different owner. But
Well,
what
that's a
is material?
scholar on some of it. You'd have to look, all code requirements can be different.
That's
from
actually
one
quoted
village.
from Holthouse versus Zoning Board of the Town of Kent from 1994.
So we'll look it up.
So I mean,
But the
even,
thing is-
even expired variances can be given extensions.
Right, if that was presented to us,
Right.
we'd look at it.
Right. Meaning, had I known that, we probably would have gone down that route, we wouldn't have had to go down this whole thing. Because the evidentiary requirements for an extension, initially, zoning board of appeals does not need to observe all the formalities necessary for the application of the variance when entertaining the request for such a time extension. So we could have done it all quicker.
Yeah, in the law, when you're dealing with the law, generally, it's like.
But is there something within our code that?
You have to make a timely request, and it has
What's
to
the
be
definition of
before the
timely?
expiration of, typically.
New York's, well, the zoning, New York state guidance on zoning laws indicate it does not have, an expired license, or expired variance can be extended.
Yeah, I'll look it up. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, have a great day. Thanks very much, Eric.
Okay.
Appreciate your time
Thanks, Hi.
and the volunteer spirit.
So we had several minutes.
Yeah, the trouble is 217, there's, the way we're structured tonight, we don't have the right three people here.
Yeah.
Because attending were me, Aaron, Allison, Elliot, and John were absent. So we'd have to have Allison to
Yeah.
approve these minutes. So 217 is
Can't have a
out.
majority?
Supposedly, like, you weren't there and John wasn't there, therefore you can vote on these in terms of.
That was on 6:15, right?
Okay,
No, we're going back to February.
February.
Yeah, I know. And I tried to get copies. Tom, by any chance, do you have, because the copy machine is out of paper.
I don't have extra copies now.
You don't.
Hold on. Maybe maybe in my bag I have.
Oh, yeah.
I may have the.
Yeah, just take a 2-minute
Sorry.
check.
Can you just
Don't-
grab that
don't
black bag?
get
Sorry.
crazy about
I
it.
may
These
have.
are, I can do these?
Thanks.
Yeah, you can do those. So I'm going to look at 6:15 next. And maybe.
Here we go.
Ooh. Oh, yeah, that's it.
You want to go through these?
Yeah,
did
so
you-
217 we can't.
Well, take a look. I photocopied everything, so you can take them out as you wish it.
Okay. So I'm gonna start with most current. Let's go to 6:15. Tom, did I ever get 6:1 from you?
Not yet, no.
I need those.
So
It's
we
like-
can, what about this here? Allison's not for this one here. We can approve this one, right?
Yeah.
I don't see, did you get these?
Not yet.
Did you read these?
I'm trying. Hang on. Oh, that's these stupid fake
One
resolutions.
thing after
Hang on.
Here, do these there.
This is 6:15. It was the Kapoor hearing. Essentially is what that was.
Great.
So you have enough people here to approve the 6:15 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. I was absent.
You okay?
As, you approved this one, right?
I'm ready to.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
can I have a motion to approve 6:15?
Is that the one I read?
Yes.
I move that we approve the minutes from 6:15 to 17.
Right, second.
Sure, go ahead.
I second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so
There
6.
you are, but what am
Yeah, I abstained because I
Because
wasn't there.
he wasn't there. Okay, so that's 6:15. So the next one is No, we can't do that because,
Allison's not here.
yeah, Allison is.
So we'll make a note of which ones were approved.
Yeah, all right.
And also which ones have yet to be approved.
Yeah, oh, I've got a running. That was just a workshop.
Oh, well.
Yeah, we're only two people, we were there, but, you know,
It's okay.
it's a workshop.
Yeah, it's a workshop. It just, technically, we don't have to approve them. It just,
I see no problem with it.
Just missing E in the name, but that's all right.
Yeah,
it's,
he's the big bad wolf.
hey,
Can I
Tom,
just draw it in?
Yeah,
Wolf,
yeah.
WOLFE.
E.
It's right most of the time, but this one is just
Yeah.
missing.
Maybe you
How could I
had
tell?
autocorrect go after.
Possibly. I move we accept the minutes.
I
from
second it.
5/16.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So 518.
518.
approved. With an E.
With any, I'll make
The
the,
last-
I'll make the change then.
Approved with an E?
Yeah.
John, I want my card when you go up to Sarasota.
Go ahead. Are you gonna be up there?
No.
Oh, is this your account?
Yeah.
That's great.
Okay, so that's all.
That's your
that's-
aim on it.
I was up there today.
So,
I was at Lake George for a couple of
six,
days.
Yeah,
Stop here.
and two. So we can't do 217 because we need Allison on that.
Okay, so you should write it down. Just
Yep.
put
No, I have-
approved, not yet approved.
I've,
Just to make it easier for you, because I won't remember.
I mean.
Good, good. Okay.
Otherwise, John, I would not have a prayer on how to.
Is
do
there
this.
anything else that we can do here at this moment?
Just, I don't want to do a long discussion, but just kind of a heads up. Santa Veneer, 26 Rock Street. Were you here for the first round of that? You were.
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't remember, the time thing. So he is making an attempt to get his variances as a standalone request and not to include the neighbor who fronts on Rock Street. John first wrote back. Did you see John's response?
I didn't see, I was working.
That's right. So check John's response. He
Okay.
says, yes, he can come. Yes, we can give, we could, give him variances. We're in a position to do that. But when he goes in front of planning to make it a legal subdivision,
Yeah. I'm listening.
all bets are off. Until
Right.
until he gets the front neighbor to get involved to make it a legal subdivision, he needs them.
So
we
can approve the variances,
we
but
can
you
appro-
may not get a building permit because you might not have, what do you?
planning
Okay.
on it, and so we can. It sounds like we can address, whether we approve it or not. We can take him on as a standalone applicant.
Yeah, so you
And
can just sit
I'll-
with that in his back pocket. And you
Yeah.
got-
Do
and
we
you-
take
and you
it
have 2
on,
years.
do we take it on and let him begin in step one? And if we get approval, he's already one step ahead of the game, or?
Yeah.
Or do you wait till,
Well,
I mean,
he's not going to get it from planning.
And the other thing is he'd have 2 years once he gets granted the variances, and of course now he can seek an extension.
Yeah.
but the thing is, if he's not gonna get it from the plan, what the hell's sense going through all of this?
Well, we'll explain that to him.
You're gonna have
Yeah.
to, because we're gonna spend time, he's gonna spend time, efforts, money,
Yeah. I know.
whatever he's gonna do, he's gonna come to us.
I guess the other idea is he wants to see whether or not we grant them, because there's so many of them, and
Yeah.
whether he probably sees us as being a bigger hurdle possible.
Yeah.
See, this is the problem with the way the village is built. This is exactly the reason the village, they have problems coming up now. Because all that property was owned by one family, uncles, brothers.
Right.
And now, it's all gone. And
Something like
Yeah.
that. I mean, but.
that's what they wanna do now. Now, we're in a position where, like, if we grant, the planning board might say no, and this poor guy is stuck. So what happens?
Well, that's, like I said, we tell him that up front, and it's his call. And if he wants to apply for the you know, the variances, he can, you know.
Then I'll read through John's first letter and then I'll get Frank.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, just.
Okay.
And
And Aaron the same, I suppose. 'cause
Yeah,
we
you
were
saw
last year.
John's first, because I think he CC'd everybody on
Yeah, I
it.
saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so.
So if you have any thoughts,
Yeah.
you just-
Okay, so that's the only other thing. And 126, the flower shop, is still kind of out to lunch because they're not sure if they're gonna get the clearance from HDRB to tear it down. And
And you know what happens when they tear it down?
Yeah,
Old grandfather goes out the door.
yeah, so,
But
it's Karen Parks, at least it'll be clear what we're dealing with.
But the problem with that is, you're trying to preserve, again, historic significance of Main Street. You're gonna say you have to put it back 25 feet or 20 feet, when all of Main Street's right there.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of, what we deal
Well, we
with.
talked about that when she came briefly before
Right.
the board, what kind of variance she needed. to-
Well, she don't even wanna put it back on the property line, right? She just wants to put back, what'd she say, 3 or 4 feet?
Either where it was.
Yeah, she wants to move to the east,
She wants to move it off of the
Yeah.
property.
She
No.
wants-
And
she wants to
5
move
feet
it
away.
away from the building.
Away from the Silver Spoon,
Here.
But,
not really.
Oh, you have to
much
keep those? No,
forward or
do you wanna keep those?
backward from-
No, you?
yeah, I think she said she wanted off
Yeah.
the village
Just gotta keep it together.
property,
Oh, sorry.
street.
Yeah.
I thought.
Just-
Was I wrong?
Yeah.
I think she said she could go either way, but she could also just buy that from the village, right?
Oh, the front?
Yeah.
Well, everybody in the village, all down there, they're in the same boat.
Yeah.
They're-
Well, they made, what's his name buy it? Hartford.
I don't think he bought it. I
He
think.
could have to buy it, because he wouldn't give him the variance, somebody didn't know.
No,
I thought we.
No, it was in the future event of the village selling that front to everybody. He didn't buy it.
Oh, I thought we gave him variance.
I think it was,
Understand that they
it was
were
a
gonna buy.
discussion that it might happen, but.
It might happen, and
Yeah.
because the village wasn't gonna do one-offs.
Okay.
They're not gonna do one-offs.
All right.
If they do it, they're gonna do it, block by block or something like that.
I think there's if you look at Garden Street, a lot of the houses on Garden Street, the steps are on village property.
Yeah,
It's just,
so,
Craig, I want to make a suggestion in light of the last two applications, that we put together some kind of example application packet that people can look at to see what they need to turn in.
we use Karen Parks.
Yeah, we
No,
can-
I'm serious.
We can redact the names and the addresses.
Yeah, I think we should use like where we have the survey and the, any kind of proposed additions to the house, how it appears on
Here's
the
an
survey
example.
itself. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing with the the secret forms and the variance worksheet.
what does the village have? Doesn't the village have?
Well, the village.
Criteria, or you want to add on to what they have, you mean?
It has a list of things, but it doesn't have.
It only lists them. It
You
only
can't
says,
have-
you need a site plan, you need deeds, you need a secret
It's good if they
review, you
see
need-
visual examples of the
Yeah,
items.
what is a site plan?
So you want to add on
I
to
mean-
what the village
No, he wants
requires?
to put,
No.
together
Just
examples.
Okay,
Yeah.
like,
Okay.
Cochrane was an issue, was the Curly Egan, was that of a problem in terms of site plan?
Yeah.
Yes.
It was?
And even, I would still say with the daily plan, there's nowhere where they show the dimensions of the new house. You don't know how wide it is or how deep it is.
We don't care.
But we're asked to consider things that.
Because we pick up variances
characteristics
that are
of the
needed
neighborhood.
when they're not even asked for or picked up by Bill or the building inspector.
Yeah.
We did that the other day down on Market Street, was it? When we did that little house where it was a lot coverage issue.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, I mean,
But the
we'll
point I'm
pick up
getting
on
at is unless we have a survey with the measurements, we can't really make those
those decisions.
Yeah.
findings.
So that's what I was.
I
thinking we were
agree.
gonna get from Chris.
I agree with Aaron.
Yeah.
I think we have to.
Yeah, we should, because you want to make it as streamlined as possible.
But you also, as a reviewing board, we should be able to have that kind of a document in front of us so we can, you know, it has all the facts, you know, the measurements and everything, that we can work off of that and figure things out on our own, what is needed and what's not, you know, where it's deficient.
Yeah.
So I agree with you.
There's probably something holding the construction to the size of that building, but we don't have anything in our records that say what size it is. There's nothing showing the width and height of the addition. I mean,
Yeah.
the height, but the width and the depth.
Of one we just approved?
Yeah,
Well, it shows the height.
but not the width or the depth. And you
It
can-
does,
You can
it's-
figure it out.
You can figure it out, and that's the.
Why should you figure it out?
We can
Should be
figure it
on
out by
plan.
the side yard
This
variances
is-
by.
It should be on the plan. It should be
That's
right
what
there.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying, it would be helpful to have it on. the plan.
Yeah.
Why should we figure anything out? It's
Well,
up to
because-
the applicant to have all that information.
That's
We should
usually
figure
supposed
nothing
to be-
Well,
out.
we didn't have to figure it out.
But we should, even.
Marie figured it out.
But-
Well, no, she figured out by using the numbers that were on his sheet, and what she figured out was the calculation. You know, I don't expect an applicant to do that calculation, because guaranteed you're going to get numbers all over the place.
But what you do need from the applicant at the beginning is a correct survey, everything measured off. the-
Well,
Heights, the width, the
Okay,
dimensions.
if you want to go down that road, every time we start pushing people for survey, I keep hearing, oh, well, they have to pay a lot of money to do a survey.
That's
I
not a
mean,
problem.
Yeah, but.
Price when they sell a house, you have to get a survey.
Yeah, but I've heard you say, we want to make them pay.
No, I always said we wasted people's money by making them 10, 12, 13 copies.
No, that's, we're asking, some people come in front of us and they will not have a current survey. And that's like $3,000 or $4,000 for, you know, and this board hasn't been consistent about saying, you've got to have a full tilt current survey.
Well, I guess the important thing is when we get to a workshop where we see significant, you know, additions being made to
Right.
a structure, to covering large portions of the property, we really need something.
Yeah, we
You
do.
know, because
And-
it's not like a shed is being put in the backyard.
Right,
Right.
right. But, you know, like I said, this board has been like all over the place.
But generally,
with
we've often
surveys.
had the survey, or, you know, where the proposed
Well,
addition or whatever the home improvement is.
Well, there's a survey
shown.
and there's a site plan. And they're two
Yeah,
different,
right.
you know, survey is a survey
No,
and a
I-
site plan is a site plan.
Right.
One does not have to have a survey with a site plan as part of it. A lot of people do, but it's not, you know, a site plan is.
It all depends on really the nature of the project, and I think, you know, when we do a workshop, we've got to find out if it's a significant
Right.
addition, we would have to.
Yeah.
But what I'm asking for as a bottom line is that we have the dimensions of the building on the site plan.
Yeah.
Right.
You
So
know,
that should be.
we don't even have the dimensions. You can of the daily edition, you could calculate them by, you know, subtracting various things in different places throughout
Right.
these documents, but there's no.
It's not put right
I would
on.
like to see it right on the site.
So we should write up something, hand it to, what's his name, Jeff out there, slide that in the packet when they come to us.
All right.
You're moving to Florida.
No, I mean, he's right, though.
No, he's right. I mean,
He's right. We
because
should have that. That should be in
we've
the
had
packet.
really crappy site plans, you know, building dimensions or otherwise. We've had, I thought the daily site plans weren't that bad. I mean, you know, it did say proposed and it did say existing, and you know, but it's better than, you know, sitting guessing what that
He
is.
came full bear. He came loaded.
Well, yeah, I
We don't
kind of
get
got
too many
that
people.
sense that.
Karen Parks is the only other one that I've seen. It's pretty good. A lot of people come here, you know what we've gone through in workshops.
Oh, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move to close the meeting.
We have a second?
Yeah.
Anybody in
All
favor?
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
I object.
Dennis?
Yep, I guess.
Aye.